Oh man, holy cow. It is January 22nd, 2025, and I haven't done an update video for myself. I record these videos. I used to do them a lot more, but basically just to kind of process through, I don't know, where I'm at, where our family's at, where business is at. So just wanted to kind of, I don't know, process a little bit here. So basically, we just got done traveling the whole country. We went around all over the United States. We hit 42 states over the last 18 months. We got back this winter and then hold it up here in Port Angeles, Washington. So now we're in the beginning of the new year. And gosh, man, it's so interesting to just be in this place of having such a crazy, wild, chaotic, adventurous trip and year and season, and then now be like back to like figuring out, all right, what's next? Like, how do we get back into rhythm? Do we get back into rhythm? Do we hit the road again? And so, I don't know. I just wanted to process kind of where I'm at. Breck and I have been processing quite a bit lately, and it's kind of hitting us differently. Um, you know, and I think the variants are different for us. For me, being the provider of the family, there's an element of like, all right, I need to like drum up some work and like make sure things are still moving so we can pay the bills and like be available to whatever is next, whether we do settle down and try to get a house versus, hit the road again. Either way, like I need to, get organized. And then, from Breck's perspective, like it's definitely a lot harder, I think, for her because right now she like being the face of Brecky Breck and this tour that we went on. Um, like she was being like activated and stimulated every day. There's a lot of affirmation and confirmation in the things that she was doing every day. We interacted with a lot of people, and it was really life-giving, if you will. And so for her, like now she's back to figuring out what her daily routine looks like, and to go from like this insane experience to now homeschooling, stay-at-home mom. I can only imagine like the emotional toll that is. And so, we've just been processing that and just trying to, be careful about being too sporadic right now with just our decisions. We moved into a rental house from now through the end of April, which is kind of a nice time frame. Initially, we were thinking about moving to Spokane, Washington to kind of keep the momentum rolling. And, we got back into Port Angeles where we've lived the last few years. And we realized, like, I think it'd be good for us to just slow down and just kind of use the season to breathe, kind of recalibrate, and, make sure that we're being wise about this next season. So um, it's crazy. It's crazy too because, when you're on the road, and you're traveling and you're moving and there's stuff happening everybody in our family including our kids are being stimulated by that experience by itself. And so it's interesting to watch our kids individually, this transition back to normalcy, if you will, and how it affects them. They definitely get bored really quick, or ask for adventure or playtime, or we've kind of like it's like this, you know, dopamine hit that this last year was for us. Now there's this element of like, all right, like, how do I regulate that differently? So, yeah, I don't know. So it's hard. We're just trying to figure out what's next, with Brecky Breck specifically. Things are for the last few years have kind of been pretty consistent, in a good way, with views and growth and opportunities are kind of there. The challenge with that is we're still navigating the the problem of ad opportunities for kids content. And so there's not really a revenue model that helps sustain kind of the size that we're at. And it's challenging because if we were a non-kids YouTube channel pulling the same numbers, we'd be making 30, 40, $50,000 a month from our ad revenue. The reality is we just got paid yesterday from YouTube, and it was just over 1,700 bucks. And so, monthly, that is nowhere near enough to sustain the efforts that we put into the channel. And I think for me, the biggest challenge is like, I don't mind helping this grow, but and like sacrificing to help this grow, but it's like, all right, without kind of like a revenue model identified for the future, it makes it really challenging to like invest this time now, knowing that I have these skills and opportunities to invest into other areas that can be, potentially more fruitful on the revenue side. So it's challenging, I think, because Breck and I are both not um, money motivated, and so it makes it difficult because we probably stay in this a little bit longer based on our passion and what we feel like we're giving to the community. But then we get to seasons of like, man, what are we doing? We can't buy a house right now because we're so spread out. There's just like normal things that are off the table. And so it's definitely a trade-off. We are so grateful for all these experiences. And, even looking back this last year, traveling around the country, it's like, man, we got to do so many amazing things that we didn't have to pay for, that if we tried to pay for all of that without the exposure or kind of doors open through what Brekkie Brek has been, it was a significant advantage, I guess I would say. So there's definitely a trade-off, but I think when we're facing like building normal routines and like where to spend our time on a day-to-day basis, that's where the real challenge comes, because it's like, man, there's not a, there's a lot of open doors, but there's not a lot of clear, I guess, pathway through that door or what that looks like on the other side. And so it's challenging too, because like, when you have a opportunity in front of you, it makes it harder to be desperate about other opportunities. And so I think that's what has led us to success in the past, has been like all the other doors have shut, and like this is our only hope to do something crazy and fun and whatever. But it's like now there's open doors all around us. Some are very obvious. We have like this play button with YouTube, and it's like seems significant, and there's a voice from it. And so to sideline that and work on things and get desperate about something else, or not desperate, but like ambitious about something else, feels like a disservice to all this work we put into Brekkie Brek. And so at this point, I'm just, processing like, all right, how do we create a little more sustainability in our production and kind of the process of the channel? There's definitely a lot of things that we can do better to promote that. We can scale down the things that maybe don't necessarily produce results, and we can scale up things that maybe are a little bit more strategic in terms of creating stability financially. And some of those areas are looking at bringing on team members to start to offload some of these pieces. And that may look like me working more on my normal job and outsourcing editing and some of these other things that are time constraints. But if I'm working doing marketing consulting and website design for clients, I can work harder, make a little bit extra, and pay other people to help keep Brekkie Brek going while also paying the bills and keeping the lights on. So I think those are some of the things we're wrestling with. The other side too, like, man, the longer we're in this and the more kind of people we interact with within this YouTube network, I've consulted with, had conversations with, lived life with a lot of successful YouTubers that would be defined as successful. And I feel like the longer we're in this industry, the more I'm realizing, there is this false sense of security that comes with success. And I remember having these same feelings with kind of business ventures outside of YouTube as well. And I think this translates to many other industries. But if you're not building a foundation of self and relationship and community while trying to scale vertical, then there's always going to be this emptiness or vulnerability to who you are and who you are to the people around you. And so this is something that Breck and I talk often, both just trying to be preventative while also recognizing even some of our, vulnerabilities as well as we grow. And so, it's interesting because I feel like I've come to this point where I don't feel like humans are meant to have fame or like this exponential exposure. I feel like it's counter or it's like against the grain of what we're wired for. And there's this like social disconnect that happens because um, we don't, if you're not exposed to it, you don't understand it. And when you're exposed to it, you can't go back. And like, it's hard to go back, I guess I should say. And I feel like this is, maybe a tale as old as, television, if you will. And maybe as old as time, even just leaders, government leaders and public figures probably have struggled with this. But I'm realizing like the more we grow in this unique, weird, kind of inspirational to a degree way, the less relatable we are to the people around us, and the harder it is to like live in both worlds. And this is something we experience like pretty drastically coming off the road of like, we either have to move to a big city and keep this momentum going, or we need to slow down drastically and like align ourselves with our community and our friends. And, we chose realignment for this time, and it is really difficult. It's really difficult. And I think, I speak for Breck and I both that like it's really challenging to like slow back down and to, even just like normal daily interactions with friends becomes difficult because there's this element of like your brain has like been stimulated and you've got these ideas and this aspirations and like this world that like, man, there's so much potential and there's so much we can do. And then interacting, natively, locally, you like don't get to bring that into that conversation as much. There's definitely ways that you can use for inspiration, but then it's very much like you're leading in that. So I don't know. Yeah, we're just struggling, like trying to figure this out. I think the challenge for me is figuring out like what I can put my hands to as well. I think, I've relied so heavily on working in partnership with people over the years. And I've realized the more project grows, the more I lean into that partnership. And when there are complications or challenges or vulnerabilities in the foundation of that partnership, it becomes really difficult for me to envision continuing vertical growth with that partner in that particular project. This has happened with many, many business partners I've had in the past, and it tends to be kind of a pattern for me of like, I have a hard time sidelining issues to continue growth. And, there's definitely something to learn from that in terms of like, all right, maybe um, pushing through some of the challenges could, lead to opportunities to address the vulnerabilities later. Where for me, it's like the second I identify these vulnerabilities, I'm just like, dude, like we're not moving forward from here. We need to address these vulnerabilities. I'm not going to build on a shaky foundation. And I feel like a little bit, I'm kind of running into that with Breck and Brecky Breck is like, not that there's issues in our relationship as much as we're just starting to identify some of these challenges with growing this thing. And, when if Breck's going through something and I'm not, like it makes it really challenging to like continue the growth of the business or the venture or these plans that we've had, or vice versa. And I think it's been, the case for both scenarios often. And, so I'm definitely getting to the point where it's like, man, I have all these skills. Like I consult with people all the time about how to grow their thing that they're passionate about. And I'm realizing more and more, like I'm trying to like find what am I passionate about? What is my thing? Outside of being a husband and supportive to Brecky Breck, outside of being, a dad and creating these experiences and adventures and, this perspective for my kids. It's like, what are the things that I'm passionate about, and how can I, you know, put some emphasis and focus on them to where I am able to kind of grow in that. And um, I think I've been scared to do that in the past because, I want to be able to grow and run with people. But I'm realizing like, there's just so many complications to partnerships, and especially in business. And when you're raising a family together, or you have families, and you're trying to do this extra thing. So I don't know. So I think for me, like in this season, between now and the end of April, I'm working, I'm doing marketing consulting with a few clients. I'm taking on new website work, paying the bills. But even through the season, just I'm taking the time to really like process, who is Kylan? What am I passionate about? And how can I pursue these things without necessarily relying on the full support of other people's foundations? Not that I won't involve them in that or they get to be a part of that, but especially I think with my family, it's like the more pressure or the more entangled I get with Breck or our kids for the ventures that we're pursuing, the more expectation there is on them, and the harder it is to address, opportunities for growth outside of that venture, um, when they come up. So, I think for the health of our family and for the health of our kids and Breck and I's marriage, like it would be really good for me to find something to be passionate about and grow, without having this like large expectation for output from Breck, with Brecky Breck or our kids for our vlog or adventures or whatever that is. I think it's really hard because a lot of my identity is wrapped up in my relationship with them. And I don't know that that's a bad thing, as much as like I just need to find that balance. And I think it's, I think I'm in a, ultimately, I think I'm in a really good season of like being like, I'm really happy that I'm able to see this, and address this. We are blessed to be in a position of being flexible. I have work opportunities and with people that, support us in many different ways, through all our ventures or even just connections when it comes to, the house we're renting. We're blessed to be in this space. So I think, to use this season as an opportunity to really invest in myself, ask myself some of these hard questions, I think, is important. And I do, I do have something to offer to other people. I do that professionally, through consulting. And so just, figuring out a way to, um, I don't know, take advantage of that opportunity, or just, continue to grow that opportunity without having to lean on the people around me. I can invite them into that journey, but having it being reliant on the people around me, I think is the thing that I'm focusing on this season. So just really solidifying, what it is that I'm passionate about and how I can, continue to communicate that passion. Yeah, so I feel like almost every day I sit down and like rewrite the structure of all these ideas and ventures and businesses, and it's like this identity wheel that I'm spinning, every day, where I'm like, this dad hat that I wear, and this husband hat that I wear, and this, professional marketing hat that I wear, and it's like, man, who am I? And I'm like taking off the hats, like trying to move around, and like, where am I going to put my attention today? Where am I going to put my attention for, the foreseeable future? And how can I do things today that build towards the future? And I do this like musical chairs with that often, and it's really, I don't know, it's a good process, but it's like really overwhelming. So, um, anyway, I'm excited. I think, I believe that all of my experiences that I've been a part of have kind of led me to this point where it's like, all right, I have these perspectives, I have these skills, I have this insight and experience, and now it's just a matter of identifying like how do I want to start to bring all those things together and apply them to something that I'm passionate about. So anyway, January 2025, it's a new year. I'm excited. I don't know what is in store for me, for our family, um, but I do know that I'm excited about it. So stay tuned.